22nd, 2021. This is our first budget meeting. So what we're going to do is go right down the order. We always start off with the mayor, the auditor, the assessor, the collector, the treasurer, kind of get that as a group. They can do it as a group, or if they want to go individually, and then we'll go page by page for their budget and go from there as to, thoughts, recommendations, having the budget for a little while now. Did something come up that allows for a cut or no cuts? Just have that good conversation. I know in the past there have been some things that we found and were recommended. So we'll always start off with the mayor to give an intro. I will unfortunately have to drop off. This is unfortunately bad calendar management. I double booked 2 events tonight, and one is going on right now that I have to run to. I did confirm it prior with the boss, and she said you're fine, and then we both made a mistake. So this will be the first time. Mr. President,
do we have a roll call?
Yeah, no, you don't have to do a roll call for a budget meeting because it's not a full city. It's not considered a full city council meeting. It's kind of like a.
Oh yeah, I do my own roll call. Don't worry.
Well, the public might like to know who's in attendance. That's all I'm saying.
I'll call that out. Then I'll call that out. It's not an official roll call, but I'll tell who's here. So with that, I do apologize for my departure. But what I want to do is turn over to Councilor McGivern, who will lead going down the order. So with us is Councilor McGivern, Councilor Sullivan, Councilor Tallman, Councilor Bacon, Councilor Graney, Councilor Hernandez. We also have department heads here. I see Kay Jakowski. I see the police are on. Mr. Hart is here. Tony DeLude is here. Tanya is here from the auditor. The library is here. The museum is here. So that would be Kate Preisler. And Deb Haslam is here from the collector. So everyone is here with regards to our agenda for tonight. And for now, I will turn it over to Mayor Murphy, Councilor Murphy, to give the intro to the budget, and then we'll start from there. And like I said, Councilor McGivern will take over the role.
Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, so everyone have a great night.
First, I want to start off with thanking all the department heads. They all came and met with me. In many cases, half hour, an hour, in some cases, a second visit. And I appreciated their input. I certainly wish in many cases I could have done a little bit more. But obviously I tried to figure out how I do this within the means of the city. Couple of things I do want to emphasize, and I've made a few changes, and I know while I'm remembering this, the library and the original budget I did for the library that's in the book, because of all the changes that happened, we actually can have a budget that's a little bit less than that, and there's a few titles that got changed in that salary study, which will impact it. So I'm still trying to logistically figure out how we're going to work that out. But in effect, it's some employees are getting a little better pay, but the city's actually paying less. So kind of ends up being the best of both worlds. I did try, obviously, to get a fully balanced budget. I don't think that's there by now, but I made some suggestions. I have spoken with Senator McNerney about making sure our financial situation is in order. I do believe that in order for us to, and for whoever is going to take the mayoral seat in 5 months and in 9 days, and I'm not counting, but whoever's going to do that, I want to put them in a position where they can talk about improving programs without so much worrying about where that money is going to come from. And part of that is getting the sewer account paid. I realize to do that means there's going to be a significant increase in that cost to our businesses and our homeowners and our renters. And so what I have done in talking to Senator McNerney is come up with a strategy, a one-time strategy, a stabilization fund account that would only be used for providing a tax break, a tax reduction for this fiscal year. If we did that one time, And right now, I'm still working on logistics because I can't do that, nor will I do that until I know if we're going to be able to balance the sewer fund. But once that happens, then I would be working with her and working with Tanya and I'm sure with Kate and probably others and probably Tony to make sure that we tried to balance the additional sewage expense with a reduced property tax expense for this year, so that when next year, when we take the full property tax in effect, I would taking the impact and dividing it by 2. Instead of having an 80% impact this year and a 20% impact next year, I'm trying to make it 50-50, if you will. So I think if we do that, the negative impact on ratepayers and on taxpayers for this year would be far less, and the opportunities for next year would be far greater without any additional major expenses. So that's one of the things I've recommended. I am hoping that, and I'm working with Mr. McManus and Tanya in the auditor's office to come up with exactly what that figure is. 2 months ago, it was about 1.6, and I estimated at 1.9 when we get to the end of the year. And so if we make that up and we then take some deduction from the property taxes, my expectation is that net cost to our individuals and our businesses will be about 2.5 or 2.6 million. And then it would be approximately the same thing next year, as opposed to if we did the sewer fee plus the entire property tax, we'd be talking somewhere around 4.3 or $4.4 million this year. So I'm trying to split those two to take the intensity of the burden off of the tax, and to try to be in a situation where we're very close to balancing the budget. If the sewer fee is close to balance, my anticipation, we provided very conservative numbers. If we get any of the revenues from 2020 that we're expecting that we're going to start to get some of those back, that very well could make up what I anticipate would be about a $500,000 deficit. And I think we would be very close to balance. So I'll leave it at that. And again, I want to thank all the department heads. I especially want to thank Tanya, Kate, and Tony, who provided me a lot of insight onto how to do this. It's an interesting first year experience. I know Councilor McGivern did it 1 year, also in a very challenging year. And I just want to thank them, and also Brian Smith, who also came and provided me some advice. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, before we get into questions and answers on your general overall presentation, is our auditor prepared to at least walk us through the cherry sheet, as we all say it, the budget recap sheet?
Tanya?
Budgets have 2 sides, obviously. Expense is the one that we look at and what the city council is responsible for during this 45-day period that we have to look at it. But knowing the revenue, estimated revenue at this point, of course, and the quote unquote, are we balanced, is part of the budget hearing too.
I know Tanya's with us. Tanya?
Can you hear me now?
Yep. We can hear you now.
Okay, I'm good now. But yes, I can definitely walk you through it if you like.
If that would be okay with everybody.
Be great.
Thank you. Tanya?
Okay, so I'm going to start on the first page with the estimated levy limit calculation that we actually received from the assessor's office. If you actually have questions about the levy limit, you could ask Tony. I know he's here with us. And as you can see, we went through and we put in the state figures on the second sheet along with the local revenues. All of the numbers on the second, third, and fourth sheets add into the first sheet that create this $3 million deficit, the $3.8 million deficit that you see. there. On page 2A, your appropriations are from your actual budget projections that you can see on page 4. If you go to the back page, you can see that we have the school's budget in column B, and the city's budget in column B as well. One says department request, one says school. You can see your CPA budget of $553,677. Does everybody see where I'm talking about on the very last page?
Yep.
Okay. And then you also have your sewer enterprise in column number E. So all of these are your appropriations. You can see in column number A, the $100,000 and the $220,000 are actually, one was from the real estate fund and one was from the stabilization fund. So those are also included in your 2022 budget as 2021 appropriations from other funds. Your local revenues are actually on page 3. So you can see here we have our estimated receipts, what we're planning on getting for fiscal year 2021 and also fiscal year 2022. Kate Jakowski did a lot of work on these revenues. I have to say we were very, very conservative. From 20 to 21, we cut these numbers 84%, and then it also worked out the same from 21 to 22. We were cutting, around 20% because of the fact that we know COVID is in place. So as we're monitoring 2021, we're also monitoring the revenues and seeing if we can bring them up at all based on 2021 numbers. On page 2, like I said, that some of the information from page 4 and page 3 are pulling over onto this page to create all of your expenditures and all of your revenues. I'm not going to go down every single line. It's pretty complicated, and I know because it just took me like 3 years to figure this out myself. But you can go down and you can see your cherry sheet charges, which we're getting from the state, of $19,356,871. You can see your cherry sheet estimated receipts of $96,750,068. Those figures we're actually getting off of the cherry sheet that Joe is referring to, and this was the House budget proposal when we actually first created this budget. The Ways and Means has come out since then, but the net change was only like $6,200. So I didn't hurry up and create another tax recap because it was pretty minuscule. And all of that information comes into your front page, which you're seeing after the mayor's budget cuts, comes up to the deficit of 3.8. We did start at like 6.6 million, so he did cut quite a bit already from the budget, but now we're obviously looking to you to help us with your appropriations as well. Does anybody have any questions?
3 questions, Tanya.
Sure.
On the 4th page, you cited stabilization for revenue. Can you explain that in a little bit more detail?
Actually, it's not a revenue on the 4th page. These are all expenses. So what we did is from other available funds, we brought those into the budget. And because you're bringing them into your general fund budget, those figures have to be included on your tax recap form because it's additional money that were not appropriations from your tax base.
Did you mention stabilization on this page, or what, did I hear you wrong?
It was $100,000, I believe, that you transferred into the snow line on 2/2/2021 was the authorization date. And then on 3/2, 220 from sale of real estate to purchase DPW vehicles.
Okay, but that's this year.
Right. So the 2021, it's going to just zero itself out.
Okay. Thank you. I get that.
It's not going to affect you. Yeah, it's not going to affect you. It's just a reporting mechanism so that they know why our ending appropriation from 2021 is actually, $320,000 more than what we appropriated.
On the parking receipts, when is the city going to start charging parking again?
I think Kate actually reached out to Mike McManus. Kate, do you know that answer? I think they already started, actually.
No, I don't know that answer, which is why that estimate is extremely conservative.
If I can, Mr. Chairman.
Mayor Murphy?
Yeah, I mean, I have talked to Mr. McManus about going back and re-implementing our parking regulations. That we just got the zip cars out, so I know people are now parking there. I'm under the impression that we were going to start doing that potentially this month. So I haven't heard that we started it, but I know that was what we were trying to put together.
Just a suggestion on a little bit of a tangent that you kind of notify people, especially people that work downtown, that July 1, June 1, whatever.
Yeah.
That we're going to start. And the last question I have on the recap sheet is it's a pretty large deficit of 3.8 million. Is part of that the sewer deficit?
Yes, actually, if you look on page number 2, it's item B10. You're going to see your enterprise fund of $1.6 million in deficit from your previous year.
Got it.
And then if you go down and you see in your item in number 3B, you'll see number 3. See your enterprise fund. That's for 2022 because you have the budget. The budget is actually $528,000 more than what we're expecting to receive in revenues.
And as Mayor Murphy said, that part of that could be offset with a rate increase.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions, general questions for Mayor Murphy or general questions for the auditor on the recap sheet? I see none. At this time, Mayor, thank you. Perhaps we can just quickly go through the line items of those who are present, beginning with the Office of the Mayor, which is on page 6 of our book. We'll go page by page, as is the tradition, unless anybody objects to that. Page 6, are there any questions?
Just one quick question.
Councilor Graney?
Just a reduction in force from number of employees on aid to the mayor from 2 to 1.
Well, I really, if I can,
Mayor Murphy, yes, please.
Yeah, I basically, aid to the mayor, but executive assistant and aid to the mayor. I still have 2 people, but I only have 2 and not 3. And their pays were very similar. So, and this is based on the salaries that I put in there were based on the survey, pretty much the salary survey that came out. I certainly, the new mayor may say they want to have a third person. I, in 7 weeks, have really thought that the 2 people in there have been very supportive and doing a good job. And I didn't feel that, and I was only in a few weeks at that point, feeling comfortable with them and what their experiences. One of them is actually leaving on Friday. So for a while, I'm going to be with one person. But I'm working through a few things in terms of how that can be done and with the second person. I personally do not think a third person was required. I will also say that I've tried to make the mayor, him or herself, available to have more conversations. And it's my understanding that a lot of conversations were not taking place directly with the mayor. And I would encourage whoever's becoming mayor to, you can't do it all, but I would encourage you to do more.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Terry, one question, the salary for the mayor.
Yep.
Based on
the new salary, that's taking care of the 6 months. So if the new salary takes place January 1, 2022, so that's that portion, and I know Tanya has put it right to the day.
okay,
How
I see
many
it's
days, how many
6
pay
months.
days are involved in that? What's that?
I got it. Okay.
Okay. And I try to keep everything to a minimum, you know, as I tried to, with all due respect, I tried to treat every department, knowing that I had to cut pretty much in many places. I tried to cut in almost every place.
Okay. Councilor Tallman?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mayor Murphy, on the 57,300, 12,500, is there a reason for that? From 12,000 last year to 12,500, or is that just?
That was the estimate of Mass Municipal Association, and that there's potentially a dues increase.
Okay.
And it may not be, but that was the potential talk, that the dues potentially go up. And so last year, if you notice, we actually ended up spending 12,067.
Right.
And so I was told that it is expected to be some increase. Obviously not knowing exactly if they're going to do it, number one, and if how much. So I just kind of took a shot at it. And I will say I've gotten a lot of communications from them, especially on this federal money,
Right.
which have been pretty beneficial. So I would tell you, and I got more coming just about every day. And there's some other things that they've provided me information on that, while I might have been hesitant when I was just in the city council seat, I'm much less hesitant to keep that membership now.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further discussion for page 6? Okay. I have to apologize. I forget sometimes that we're on Zoom, and I'm thinking after we just saw the city council chambers that we're in the chambers. Jeff has just reminded me that we have the option of sharing the budget pages as we go along. Now that'll make it a little bit harder to run the meeting, but I think it might be a good idea. Does anybody object? Anybody care either way? Want to try it, Linda?
That's right. I think it'd be good.
Do we know
I have my hard copy, but we can try it.
I'm thinking about for our audience that are watching us more so.
That'd be great.
If why don't we go a couple of pages like this and see how it works out for anybody
See if
watching
they can
us?
see it.
Anybody watching us? This is the budget book, the hard copies that we work from, being shared through Zoom. Okay, so
Mr. Chairman,
next up is the auditor, page 7.
Mr. Chairman, you can see it, but it's very small, you know. You have to get right close to-
Most people on Zoom can adjust that by going up top with view options, and they can push us out on their own laptops or whatever they're using, and they can make it bigger and just go and move it as we go. Just, I think most people are savvy to that.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, that you can zoom in on it.
Right, Tanya, page 7 belongs to you. Would you like to talk about your budget for 30 seconds? Then we can ask you questions.
Absolutely. I can give you a quick countdown of what I've done here. Pretty much everything in my budget has stayed the same, except for if you can look at the personal services line, you can see that what I've done is I've actually had 2 ladies from my office retire this year. And so next year I was kind of looking to remove one of the clerk positions and actually create an accountant, like a project accountant position, somebody a little higher rank, supervisory skills that can, you know, come into the city with experience and what I'm hoping can take on some of the many, many projects that I'd love to work on, but I don't have time to. I do think it will save us money in the long run. It will help to create policies and procedures quicker. So that's really the only change you'll see in my budget at the moment from last year.
Tanya, will that position be a union position or a non-union?
So I'm not quite sure. I was kind of waiting to see how the budget hearings went because I would need to know, what type of salary we're paying. And then what I would do is I'd submit it to personnel in the legal department just to make sure that that position gets where it needs to go. I'm assuming it will probably be in the PSA. I did put a PSA level down there. Similar job description to the assistant directors of planning and economic development on that type of a level. So they would be the ones to help decide that. That wouldn't necessarily be my choice.
Just a little food for thought. We cannot create a position through the budget if it's not on the books already. If it's on the books but not funded, it's being funded, that's fine. So you may have to have one of us file something through make an order that will go through ordinance. If it's part of a union, the union would have to negotiate the position itself, right, and they thus could create it that way.
Okay, thank you. I'm just in the beginning stages right now, like I said. So obviously, before I was going to hire anybody, I would go through that process.
Okay. Any questions for our auditor on page 7?
I have a question.
Councilor Reagan.
Thank you. Tanya, just as you know, we're going to have to be looking at things to try to get to a balanced budget. And it looks like at the bottom line, you're about 10% over last year's budget. So I guess, and I know you're looking at the other positions and I understand the logic behind what you're doing, but below the line, do you have room to bring any of those costs closer to last year, or is?
I would love to say yes, but I can honestly tell you I have $90,500 worth of professional services contracts already to go for next year that I'm waiting to sign. $490 that I budgeted is my actual bill for my photocopier. It's not in print. It's not included in the citywide maintenance agreement. If you want to cut the $300 from your budget books, I can give you some janky budget books next year. I really don't have a lot. You can cut my supplies if you wanted to, but I mean, that would be a struggle. I really am pretty conservative when it comes to office supplies. And my last dues, that's the Mass Municipal Auditors Association. Yeah. And I'm going to go with Terry on that. I get information from them every day. I have lots of colleagues on there that, we discuss different guidance with. So as much as I would, I want to say no.
So, okay. So it's really mostly up in the personnel section that we're looking. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilor Sullivan.
Yep. Thank you. Tanya, could you help me with this? If we're rearranging a position and hiring a full-time accountant, why are we having to spend so much then on professional outside service accounting? Wouldn't that negate the need for some of that?
Well, those are your audits actually, and your GASB reporting, which you need for your audit. So although I would like to say this year, yes, you might be able to do that without having this position approved, without knowing that I can hire somebody that's going to be able to take on those responsibilities. I mean, I can't tell you how much we would save because there's a lot of projects that we have going on that need to be completed. And they really do the bare minimum except for maybe balance the cash book with the general ledger for us. Everything else is audit related.
Well, all right. So it's all related to paying outside auditors.
Yep. Siegel and Melanson Heath are who we have contracts with.
And how much is the Melanson Heath portion of that, their contract?
$67,500. Siegel is 23,000. I actually have the contract
Okay.
with me if you need me to break them down for you.
No, that's all right. That answers my questions.
Could you repeat that number, please, on Melanson and Heath?
Melanson Heath is 67,500.
Thank you. Councilor Tomlin.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tanya, on the top, you said that 2 people retired. Were they administrative clerks?
Yes,
But you're still keeping one of them on? You're hiring one?
I would like to, yes.
Okay. And the other position is the one you're trying to get an accountant. Now, might have to go through ordinance or whatever to get the position, right?
Correct.
Okay. And it's one other quick question on the accounting and auditing. What happened last year, or last part of the fiscal year when there was only 6,600 spent for that?
I probably didn't receive the invoices by
Okay.
December because they just started doing this year's audit
Okay.
probably like a month ago.
All right. So that $82,000 was spent then.
Yeah, yes. We
Okay.
did have a little bit of savings, but nothing significant.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilor Sullivan, is your hand back up or are you all set?
Yeah, no, it's back up. Tanya, what is it that Siegel does or Seagal that's different than Melanson and Heath?
Siegel is our actuarial firm that does our liabilities for our retirement, our employees, and other pension obligations. So there's actually 2 different reports that they provide to us that we need to complete our audit for the year. It's a pretty cool report. I could send it to you if you like. It just shows you how much outstanding liability you have in your insurances for your retirees, how long they expect your employees to live and collect benefits, because we do pay excuse me, for our employee benefits.
Okay, that answers that. Thanks.
Mr. Chairman, could I just make one comment?
Councilor Murphy?
Yeah, just in terms of, and this is the Council Tillman, just so we through June 1st now, and I just got the report yesterday on that professional accounting services, we had now paid $80,600, and we have $12,000 left, but we're expecting to have at least one more invoice, so we're going to be pretty close to that 90,000.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussions on page 7? Councilor Bacon.
I just have a procedural question relative to the budget, and I'm just thinking out loud, Tanya. I'm not against what you're trying to do in your department, but when it comes down to the increases in the budget, what I'm wondering is if we're not able to create the newer higher level position that you want, are we in a position, maybe through the chair to our mayor, of the mayor coming in with an amended budget? I mean, I would just hate to see, on the one hand, if the new job didn't go through, then the department ending up without the other support. So as a procedural matter, could it come back in another format in one of the next 2 meetings or prior to our vote out of the mayor's office?
I'm sorry. You could actually just reduce what's in that budget line down to, so the total for the 2 NAIDs, the 2 clerks,
Yeah.
you look on my budget, you see that 85,362?
Yeah.
That would actually be for 2 positions. So if you wanted, and I don't want you to, obviously, but
I know.
if you wanted to take the difference and put it in that line, I could come and do a transfer into the clerk's line. Well, I mean, you don't have to do it through the budget, but I can do it next year, you know, if that was your choice.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
That's a
Mr.
good
Chairman,
question.
as an aside,
Councilor
Mr.
Green?
Chairman, as an aside, yeah, just quickly as an aside, Tanya, you said that the Seagull information speculates who's going to cash out in the retirement system. Is that what you said?
No, it's actually about benefits and retirement benefits, like other post-employment benefits, the benefits that we're paying for our employees right now, how long.
But you said that they speculate how long you're going to have to pay for somebody. That sounds like the Grim Reaper of the audit department.
It is, but that's what the actuarials do. That's, you know, they try to figure out what your liability is till the time this person retires, and then after that.
I know. I just wanted to get a little levity. into the conversation.
They don't go by person.
Councilor Bacon, that's an excellent question. A very good answer, of course, by the auditor. And of course, there's also the option the mayor has of a supplemental budget at some time if we do, if there is a cut to that line item or anywhere within the budget. The supplemental budget can come in anytime between now and when we set the tax rate, but traditionally it comes in between now and when our 45-day period is up. Is there any other questions on page 7? The chair will note that we are joined by Ward 6 Councilor Juan Anderson Burgos. Welcome, Juan.
Thank you, everyone.
If there's no other questions on page 7, Juan, we're going page by page. Next page is for tonight is page 9 for our Assessor's Department. We have Tony DeWood with us. Welcome, Tony. If you'd like to walk us through for a little 30-second update, then we can ask some questions.
Not much has changed in my budget. There's a few changes for, I think, 2% for clerks union that was put in there. I was kind of disappointed myself and Debbie with the ordinance that was passed for the salary survey. It didn't really get to where I wanted it to go. It seems like I'd have to work another 30 years to get to where the top of the range for the salary, but I'm not sure how that's going to work with all the other departments going forward. I know the treasurer, city clerk, and the mayor are set in stone. You guys voted on those numbers, but with the other salary studies for all the department heads, there was no clear number for them. So that's, I talked to Terry about it. You know, he didn't really want to increase more due to the fact, you know, that he's only going to be here for the 6 months. So I understood what he was all about, and that's about all I have. I got a little slight increase in assessment update. I wanted more. I'm trying to work with Zach on a new project for a server to upgrade Assess Pro, but I think it's going to be about $5,000. So I might be able to do half this year and half for next year. So other than that, the budget's pretty much the same. I think we went up 3% in expenses, and that's it, you know.
Tony, I appreciate your candor and your comments about the salary. I hope, and I know we're in this interim phase, and Mayor Murphy's doing a fantastic job, and our president knows the ropes very well. He's well seasoned. But just a reminder, we all know that your salary's not been increased because you've been at the max for years now. But by adjusting the ordinance, the president of the city council, representing us as the appointing authority, should be meeting with the mayor to talk about salaries for the people that we appoint. Yeah. So if that hasn't happened, I would suggest that it does happen before July 1st. Is there
Yeah.
any questions on page 9?
Also, I wanted to say that I did work with Terry a lot on the budget, and to make them familiar with Proposition 2.5 and levy limit and all that, all the stuff that really drives our prices. I mean, single family homes are crazy again for this year. So I think with all being said and done, we're still going to have our significant increase for again this year through the real estate and single family market. So, that'll help. It'll be between 1.2 and 1.6 million in extra revenue for real estate. So it's a good number, and hopefully when everything's all said and done, it'll be closer to a balanced budget.
Tony, the number on the recap is a little lower than that, if I'm right.
The recap I have in front of me, yeah, it was the 1,438,204, which is right in line with, last year's levy limit was 57,528. And if you were to do 2.5%, that gives you the 1.438. And the limit that I'm kind of looking at for collection for the city is around close to 59 million. It's just going to be a tick under 59 million. So
that's the max we can go to, right?
Yeah.
I just want you to know that I still have my little handbook. I call it Proposition 2.5 for Dummies. I
oh yeah, the little blue one. Yeah.
Remember when they gave those out?
You know what? I have a copy, and I should send them to all the counselors.
I tell you what, it's got the valuable information in a small package.
Yeah.
If you have them,
yeah,
it would be great.
I'll take one.
Yeah, and
I'll take one.
I'll send one out. Yeah, definitely.
That'd be great, Tony. That would be great.
Yeah, and you know what? I'll send out my the levy limit page for this year, and this is right off the Department of Revenue for us. So that'll help you guys understand what we can and cannot collect. So
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Mr. DeLude? Any other questions for page 9?
If I could, I just would like to thank him both. We've had good conversations, good, frank, honest conversations, and I appreciate his understanding and his commitment.
Thanks, man.
That's because the city council knows how to appoint good assessors.
Yeah. Well, I owe it all to you guys.
No, we appreciate
Thanks,
you,
Tony.
Thanks, Tony.
Especially when we go to set the tax rate. We know you're right there with all the correct answers.
Absolutely.
Okay.
If there's no further questions, do we move on to our next one, which is a little bit of bitter irony. We're going to go to, by agenda, page 11 for the tax collector, which is trumping the tax collector the tax collector who went over to the treasurer. Sorry, Katie, but Debbie's going first. Page 11, welcome.
Are you sure?
Yes, we are, Deb. The agenda never lies.
Hi, Deb.
Hi.
Debbie, thank you for what you're doing. I don't want to embarrass you, but if I'm correct, you're going on 40 what years of service?
40. Well, I'm already at 49.
49.
Wow.
I don't want to say 50 because but unbelievable.
It'll be here before you know it.
Hi, Debbie.
Hi.
Debbie, if you'd like, I think you had a little bit to do with the budget this year. I'm sure Mayor Murphy and our treasurer worked on it with you. But is there anything you'd like to talk about?
Well, I sat in with the mayor and Katie when we met for the budget, but Katie did do it because it was that transition time, and basically everything is pretty I think where it should be. you know, Katie might have more to say on that than I would right now, you know, kind of being the newbie here. But everything looks straightforward. Office supplies, I'm hoping that's going to be okay. I'm, you know, usually the one that, you know, has to finagle with what we're going to get and what we're not going to get. But, you know, we're pretty right on spot, and we usually have money left over at the end of the year to turn back into the city.
Thank you, Deb. Katie, did you want to add anything or just get into questions?
Yeah, no, we can pretty much just get into the questions. I think the only real thing is the tax title certification line being cut $1,000 is going to be a challenge for when we do the new tax taking, but we'll figure out a way to make it work.
You do know that Debbie's combined years of services are more than you and the mayor's services together. And you cut her, Mayor Murphy?
More than my age.
Let me just say.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Deb.
Yeah, I did notice that right away.
Any further comments, any further questions for our tax collecting page? I see none. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Deb.
Thanks, Deb.
Thanks.
Thank you, Deb.
Moving next, as stated, is the treasurer, page 10. Katie, I know it's recent, not real recent, but you have filled in, I think, in every position we have that we call the finances positions. You've been our tax collector for a while. You filled in as auditor. You filled in now as, well, you now are the treasurer, you know, for the remainder of the term, actually. So we welcome you. And I also understand that you are the go-to munis person in the city, you know, and I think that's important. But for tonight's purposes, can you tell us about page 10? And there's another caveat, as I pre-warned you with the debt collection and stuff, which is on, I believe, 54, is it? I'll find it. But if you want to start
49, I think.
Thank you. You want to start off on page 10?
Sure. Not much has really changed from last fiscal year's or this current fiscal year's appropriation to the new mayor's proposed budget. Obviously, there's union positions within the office, so those are going up contractually, and then the city treasurer salary line is what will get us through fiscal 22 with the new salary taking effect January 1st, 2022. There's some significant cuts that the mayor made in the expense lines. It'll be a challenge, but we'll figure out how to push through with those cuts. I think that we can make it work.
That postage cut. I know we end up sending, you know, a lot of things out. Is something you're going to be able to live with?
Hopefully, you know, this year in particular, our postage was quite high because of, you know, City Hall and the annex being closed. So a lot more mail went out to communicate with constituents. So hopefully now that we're, you know, back open somewhat to the public, those expenses will decrease a little bit so we can live within that proposed budget.
Any questions on page 10 before we go to page 49?
Can I just ask a question and
Mayor Murphy, yep.
Just where do we stand on the assistant treasurer, Kate? Have we been able to
held some interviews? Yep, held some interviews today. We have one more tomorrow, and hopefully you'll have a decision by the end of this week.
Okay, thank you.
Seeing no other questions, we can come back. If everybody would like to turn to page 49 for a minute. And just so you know, it carries over to 50 for a few lines. Okay, do you have, I know this is maybe not new to you, but certainly first time as a budget. Do you have any concerns about our depth and just some of the future proposals that are coming our way?
I do not at the moment. I know that Tanya for this year definitely filled this in, and I've been working very closely with her to kind of get up to speed with the new things that have come on board since I started and transitioned. And obviously, I've always been in contact with Cinder and Abby from Hilltop Securities, and you know they're constantly in communication with us, and seem to be in fairly good shape.
Not that we're talking about age, Mayor Murphy, but Cinda's been with the city since 1973. I think you and I were in high school.
Oh, thank you. I don't think you're any, you have no idea how old I am. But I appreciate it.
I mean, real nice.
Hey,
one question on short-term.
Yo, he's a protected class, you know. You are too.
Short-term debt. I know it can be a moving target, and there's some. I'm sure there's some reasons, but it's going to be asked at the night of the final budget. If I don't ask it this evening, this year it looks like I'm looking at the 12-month mark that you went over $100,000 after being budgeted $77,755. The current budget is 117 proposed budget, 117,984. Can you talk about that? Do we have some good eyesight on what we're going to need for short term?
I'm hoping that Tanya can chime in because she's the one that plugged that number in because I came in late.
Sorry, I knew it's kind of a tough question on the fly. Tanya, you know what I'm talking about?
I absolutely do. So that short-term interest figure I actually get from Hilltop. That tells us our short-term, what our bands are for all of our outstanding debt that have not been bonded yet. So as long as we, I know that you and I had this conversation last year when it came to the short-term interest, and you said, yes, but if it's not held for a full year, then you're not going to get charged that much. But the bonds are coming from September to September. So we're going to, on September 24th this year, we're going to be paying our bands off and taking on new bands. So I received that number from Hilltop, so that's the number that I thought would be best based on their estimates of our short-term debt.
Now, will any school bonding play into this part of the budget?
Yes, we actually have. We have outstanding bands currently on the accelerated repair boiler and window project. So there is millions of dollars, but we've been receiving the reimbursements from the MSBA. So we should be able to bond in September for all of those projects.
The MSBA timely with reimbursements? They have been in the past.
They do seem to be timely, and we also work with like a management company that puts in our reimbursements for us. Sometimes we do get behind, but I do know that the school department and even myself, we're working really hard to make sure that we're staying on top of all that, so that the city is receiving their money, in a timely fashion, so we don't have to take out that short-term debt.
Any further questions for the treasurer?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Councilor Graney.
Yeah, Tanya, what is the percentage of the reimbursement?
On the current project, I believe it was 85% for most of them, but there were some expenses in some of the fund accounts that were not reimbursable expenses. I know that Whitney has talked about that in the past. So on those administrative and other non-reimbursable expenses, obviously we don't get reimbursement for that.
So 85% is good. Okay, thank you.
Not bad.
Any further questions or discussion for the treasurer? Katie, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think we're moving on to the police department. Am I correct?
Yes.
And I think someone's going to say, Councilor McGee, move over. 7:30, and we're at the police department. Just kidding, Todd. Page 22, 23, shared on the screen with us tonight is Chief Feeble. I think I saw Lieutenant Hart is also with us. Anyone else, Manny?
Yeah, we're with, also, this is basically going to be future Chief Pratt's budget. So he's sitting right here, and we're going to shortly.
Captain Pratt.
Yep.
Okay, Chief, if you'd like to take over and just run us through the budget, then we can go into question and answers.
Okay, well, basically, we submitted a budget. The mayor made some cuts. We're not too concerned at this time. I'm sure you guys are going to make more cuts. And we're going to switch seats, myself and Captain Pratt, because it's basically going to be his budget. I just want to caution you before we do, and I'll still be in the room, that usually we look at numbers and 3-year averages, but with COVID, as you know better than anybody, with the courts just opening up. So if you look at court time and things like that, it's the numbers are going to be a little skewed if you look past at the last like 18 months. So normally what everybody does is they look at the previous year and make cuts based on what we spent, what we didn't spend. I just want to be very clear that it's just going to look different this year now we're opening up. So if there's any questions on any specific line items, we'll be ready. Dave?
Chief, that's a very good point, and the floodgates are about to open in the trial court.
Yep, I'm just going to switch seats with Dave here. This will be his budget, and I'll be ready to answer questions.
Thank you. Welcome, Captain Pratt, soon to be Chief Pratt, and we appreciate your first budget hearing. We're going to go easy, or at least the first page, okay?
Sounds good. No, let's make it tough on him, Joe.
Okay, questions. City Council, questions or comments? Mayor Murphy, this is one of the bigger budgets. Did you want to add anything?
If I could make a couple of comments.
Mayor Murphy.
First of all, I want to make sure, and I should have left 8 in there on the lieutenant line instead of 7, even though I'm funding 7. I know by contract I needed to leave 8, so I'd like to make sure that gets noted. In this, I did fund for 4 captains after reviewing the chart with the chief and the captain, and I'm not sure if Lieutenant Hart was there at that point, but reviewing it, I looked at the potential of reducing the need for overtime and also creating a smoother command structure. I also, and we clearly emphasized we wanted to make some cuts on overtime. Plus, we were able to take some money from grants, which we will make sure it funds a portion of one of those positions. So I just want to do that. And the other thing was, I didn't put money in for 92, but I put 92 in there for patrol officers. I know we just appointed 10 new patrol officers yesterday, but it's very difficult to stay near the 90. I mean, they were down to 80, 79 or 80, if I'm not mistaken, until yesterday. So I'm trying to give a little cushion so as people go, we can still have a fuller patrol force. And I did try to cut things. I did try to recognize the court appearances and things along that lines. I know the chief put in a little higher than I did. I tried to go back 2 years, and obviously it's all guesswork, but I try to go back and at least come pretty close to what the request was and still try to get a balanced budget out of this. But I appreciated working with them. I think we had some good discussions, and I'll turn it over to the captain, too soon to be chief.
Thank you, Mayor. If we could, Captain, Mayor, Lieutenant Hart, go right to patrol officers. You were saying that it's budgeted for 92?
Correct.
Okay.
No,
And-
no. I did not put any additional money to get it to 90. I did put 92 for a number with kind of emphasizing that we need to consider going beyond that. And if somebody, if we have some people leave and we've got money and we can get to 92 within that budget, that we should do that. That's basically what I'm saying. Eventually, I would have put money in there, but I obviously I got to balance the budget.
Okay, I appreciate that. It's so here's my question, but I want to qualify the question. I'm not asking this because I think we can cut this line item. I don't believe we can or should cut this line item. And the reason being is whether it's 88, 92, I think we know the makeup of the how the police department works, and I think it's important that we have the patrol officers to make sure for 24/7 we have our patrol beats and cruisers filled. But we also know that we get sometimes or pretty annual a COPS grant and a Shannon's grant, and I'd like to know if we have the estimated amount of money that will be used from those grants for patrol officers. The qualification is this. I want to know that because I think that should come off the cherry sheet where we're showing a deficit if we know we're going to get that revenue, because that revenue doesn't show on the recap sheet. So Captain or Lieutenant Hart, do we know what we have in store for grants that can be used for salaries this coming year?
Yes. So as far as trying to use grant money to offset costs for budgeted patrol officers, that's supplanting as far as the grants go. Some of the grants, like you mentioned, Shannon, that does not have a officer salary for it. And the other ones, like the opioid grants and crisis intervention grants, those do have officer salaries, but they are getting a little feedback here.
Someone get a technical issue, stand by.
Yeah, we got a little technical problem here.
Not too bad, John.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you. It's just a little feedback.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, yeah, so those patrol officer positions are through the grant, but like I said before, it's supplanting if you're trying to offset those salaries from the budget. And as far as the patrolman number goes, we have to maintain 90 because of the COPS hiring grant, which should be ending sometime this year, but we're going to be putting in again for it. And we have to do 1 year at that same number of 90 officers after the grant expires. That's our obligation.
Understood. But I'm not sure if my question was understood. The reason I'm asking is no intention of cutting the line item. Matter of fact, that would be detrimental towards the COPS grant itself if we were to cut the line item. I understand that. But if the money comes in and we use it, there should be a way to reflect it in the recap sheet. Tanya, I know you're still with us. Am I making any sense, or just tell me I'm not?
Actually, you're not. Because
You asked for it, Bill.
the grants are actually accounted for differently in their special revenue funds. And many of the grant requirements is that you have these full employee salaries budgeted within your appropriation for you to be able to receive the grant. So the general fund must you must appropriate all your employees within your general fund unless they're specifically just grant employees. And in that case, you would never see the expense go on in your general fund budget.
I'm conceding to that. So, but during the course of the next 12 months, starting July 1, there'll be no transfers out of this line item to some other line item, correct?
Okay, well, that's a John Hart question.
I'm asking everybody because I think you know what I'm asking.
Yeah, no, there are funds that do come out of that and get distributed throughout our budget.
Why?
Because it's in excess.
Why is it in excess is what I'm asking.
Well, like you know, and like I know, is like you always say, Joe, you don't ask a question if you don't know the answer already. And you know the answer, so.
That's why I'm in courtroom A. I'm not in courtroom A. I'm on the budget floor right here.
I know, and that's why, there's okay, I'll give it to the chief. He wants to answer that.
Joe, I think the easy answer here, and I think where you're going, you correct me if I'm wrong, is that patrolman's line item, those grant positions take from our patrol force, and that money is used to backfill those positions. That's when we move through overtime. Is that what you're asking?
I think that's, yes, it's making it clearer. And then don't get me wrong, I understand, and I've always been an advocate that grant monies, we don't want to create positions because the year the grant runs up, we know what happened to Springfield 20 years ago when they hired over 100 police officers from a grant that dried up in 3 years, and it almost put them, it did put them into bankruptcy with the state bailed them out.
Yeah.
I get that. What I'm just saying though is we have a $3.8 million deficit. I'm not looking to cut this line item, but I just want to make sure we're accounting for all revenue that we have to when it comes to balancing the budget. So I hear you. I understand.
Okay.
All right, I'm taking up too much time. Is there other questions for page 22 for the police department? Councilor Bacon.
Thank you. So just to get onto your point a little bit more about backfilling for the grant positions, I understand that, but are we at 90 patrolmen today filled?
We will be on Sunday.
Okay. And that's probably about as good as it's been in the last year, right?
Correct.
So would it be correct to say that if we do have the full complement of officers, that we won't have to go to overtime as much for grant funded positions if we have regular officers that we can go to if we're at our budgeted complement rather than 10 positions down?
I would say that's probably not fair to say because I think there's at least 5 officers that are pulled from patrol to those grant positions. So those officers' positions need to be backfilled.
Oh, so you're saying that even if you have the full complement, you're still having to have people do a double because of the grant position?
Right.
They're having to do a double shift to cover
No.
for the.
No, not necessarily.
Maybe I can make it a little clearer. So essentially, we have 90 patrolmen, and 5 patrolmen out of the 90 are assigned to the grants. So now, technically, we have 85 patrolmen who work. So those 5 positions are missing in field operations and have to be backfilled.
Right,
So once those grants go away, then those funds or those officers will go back to patrol, and we would have a special team.
right, and I get that. But the question I'm asking is, so if you have 85 instead of 80, you can have 5 available to fill the shift rather than having to go to somebody being forced to overtime if you were down, say, 5 more positions.
I guess in theory, I know what you're saying, but it's going to be a day-to-day thing based on the numbers.
Right. But
Vacations are coming, things like that.
Contractual issue.
We have contractual things, we have training things we have to do. So I guess I know what you're saying. We're going to have 5 extra officers because we hired 10.
Right, compared to say last year.
But I can't say 100% that then we won't have overtime. We will still have some overtime, but it might be less.
Exactly, and so I guess I'm wondering if, and it sounds like your goal is to stay as close to the 90 as you can, and we increase the reserve cap to make it hopefully easier for that to be happening, right?
That's always the goal, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Tomlin?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the Captain Pratt, and I understand. I think another thing that we probably don't realize with the grants to take away officers, but also every 2 weeks we vote on people that are injured on duty. So that is going to come into play too, right? With overtime, how many people you got injured on duty?
Definitely, that's definitely always a factor.
Yeah, on the average, how many do you have every week or every couple of weeks? Does it seem like 4 or 5?
I would say that's probably accurate.
Right.
And it can change in a minute, as you know.
Right. And what kind of, you talking about training? So in other words, you could have a day where you could lose 4 officers just because they have to do a day training somewhere?
Correct. Well, we have to do our annual in-service training,
right,
which pulls officers from the shift. We now have to annually train twice a year on firearms. That's once a year. It's state mandated now, so that has to take place as well. When we do that, that's what happens. We pull officers from the shift, send them to train for the day. If that creates, along with injured on duty or regular absences or vacations, that might create overtime.
Okay. And on with the acting mayor making another captain, is that going to really, I mean, it's an increase in another, I don't know, 80,000 or whatever, 90,000 a year, but is that going to really, can that really save money in the long run? Because with the 3 captains, there was a lot of overtime, but just making 1 more captain, does that put a captain on the street? Or
I believe that will definitely help.
It will, for as far as
those 3 captains, I can tell you that we definitely were given a lot of extra tasks from that unfunded captain position. And with 4 captains, I think we can definitely space that out. I think I'd like to add that when we were working with 3 captains, the captains we were working with had been here a little longer. Then probably going forward, we're going to have new captains. I think it's unfair to put them in the position maybe that some of these more senior captains like myself had taken on a lot of those extra responsibilities. So I think it's wiser to have the 4 than the 3. And I spoke to the mayor about that.
Okay, but, and I will see how it goes during the year, but I think, you know, we'd like to see the numbers as far as overtime, but if it really did play a role and have an effect in that, because that, you know, you're increasing the budget in one way, but is the savings going to be there with overtime? That's my concern.
I think you will see a savings down from the captains with that extra captain, no question about it.
Okay, and on 51124, the grant manager, is that something that's paid out of a grant? It said 70,000 requested, and it's zeroed out.
Yeah, the mayor cut that. We were hoping to add a grant manager position. I know that's been a part of it. The city wanted that as well, and we put it in there to try to get that position. The mayor cut that, so I'm not. You'd have to ask him.
Was that to keep better track of the grants because of the issue we've had the last couple of years with the budget deficit?
Well, ultimately, I would like to get that position so that I could replace my aging Lieutenant Hart here, because someday he will be gone, and then I think we'll be in big trouble. I would love to have a time frame where he could work with that new grant manager and transfer him out of there and back patrol, or at least his position. Probably by the time he would train someone, he might be leaving us. So that is a worry for the police department. It should be a worry for the city as well.
Okay, thank you.
Captain Pratt, the aging lieutenant can still hit the golf ball pretty long, but I don't think he should give up his day job just yet.
Yeah, no, I hope not. Believe me, I hope not. For my sake, he doesn't give it up too soon. I hear you got to take it easy on him out there on the golf course, so he doesn't hurt himself.
Councilor Graney.
Mr. Chairman, yeah, just quickly, Captain Pratt, just a quick question. Generally speaking, with your field grade officers and your NCOs, how many retirements out of those billets are you going to have this year? And if you are, they're going to have to be filled. Generally, you guys fill from within the ranks of the PD. Are you going to replace them with patrolmen, and do you have enough patrolmen to replace them?
Yeah, we always replace from within. Right now, we're predicting about 7 retirees. I think 3 of them would be supervisors of the ones we're predicting. I would say that in these times people are leaving us every day when they get the chance. So we're hoping that things settle down.
I understand that.
Stay. But yes, they will be filled from within, and we will have the patrolmen, and then we'll backfill the patrolmen as well.
Okay, thank you, Captain Pratt.
Mayor Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to deal with the captain position, and just so you know, I mean, what I tried to put in the budget based on all the information, and between that and reducing in terms of funding for the lieutenant, we actually added a captain and pretty much did it at the same cost as we would have had with 8 lieutenants and three captains, with the captains then ending up having to do more overtime. So that was the logic in doing that. And the grant manager position, which was a great question, Council Tallman. I was very close, but again, I have to come where, all right, where's the priority? And I thought, because of the suggestion that the 4th captain with this new command structure could potentially lower overtime, and that they felt more comfortable with 4 captains and 7 lieutenants. That's basically, I kind of made that decision rather than the grant manager. I came very close to the grant manager and not the other, but that was the logic.
Councilor Sullivan.
You're muted.
Mike, you're still muted.
Okay, thank you. So, I guess, Captain Pratt, you're answering for some of these questions. Back to the retirement issue and stuff, people expect to leave the department. We're increasing vacation buyback, time owed buyback, and sick leave buyback. I assume all of that is because of retirees?
That's correct. That's correct.
So we're looking at a $215,000 increase in total on those 3 lines. Now
last year that item was underfunded, and we were able to, basically due to COVID, we had money that we were able to shift in there to cover that. It was almost, I think, close to 300,000 that we were short last year. So we were able to cover that mainly because of COVID, that certain, obviously, things didn't happen, court, the parade, things like that. We were able to cover those costs. I don't anticipate we're going to have that same luxury this year coming up.
All right, so we painted a pretty broad brush with a portion of these being supervisors. How many of these would be the captain's positions that you're anticipating retiring and having a backfill?
I think there would be 2, but one of those would be me going to chief. and the current chief retiring.
Okay, but, so you're not expecting any captains to retire at all then?
No, I'm expecting one.
Okay. And we've been operating on 3 captains for quite a few years now, right?
Correct. 3, I believe.
For 3 years, all right. Okay, those are my only questions for right now.
Counselor Tomlin?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. Just going back to either to Mayor Murphy or to Captain Pratt. So you said this, in the book is listed 7, but you want 8. Is that true, Mayor Murphy and Lieutenant?
Yeah, I've been informed that under the contract I need to list 8. I don't have to fund 8, but I need to list 8.
Okay, so the number should be 8 there instead of 7.
Yes, but the amount, the money amount won't change unless, if you ended up cutting some of the other money, I might end up transferring it to the lieutenant and make that 8 lieutenants. But more than likely, if we go to 4 captains, we're going to have a lieutenant or 2 lieutenants moving up to being captains.
Okay, but the funding there is for how many? For 7 or for 8?
7. It's for 7.
It's for 7. Okay, thank you.
But I was supposed to write 8.
Okay.
Learning.
Counselor Bacon?
Thank you. This question's either for the chief or Mayor Murphy. I know you're saying about adding positions and then saving on the other side. But when we look at the bottom line, I haven't had a chance to do the numbers. What is the percentage of increase in the budget that's proposed compared to this year for the police?
Of the total budget?
Yeah, for the police department.
Okay.
And I mean, if the chief can say.
I'm not sure if Tanya has that. The total, are you asking for the total increase of the overall budget?
Yes. So the bottom line for the budget that we're looking at, where we're trying to bring the whole budget for the city into balance, I'm just interested to understand how much of an increase this budget proposal is over your current budget that was approved. Is it like 2%, 3%, 5%? Some departments are coming in almost level, some are coming in higher, and I'm just trying to get a sense of each department.
You know the percentage.
It's like about 8, I think.
1.2.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Counselor Sullivan, did you have your hand back up?
Turn this one up.
Is there any other questions on page 22, 23 for the police department? Chief Feeble, Chief Pratt, thank you. Lieutenant Hart, excellent job.
Thank you.
Mike's hand is still up, and I think he had to step away. I just wasn't sure if.
Joe, I have a question.
Oh, Counselor Anderson Burgos. Juan, you're muted.
Joe, you're echoing.
That's from the police department. I'm over there now.
Yeah, you're everywhere. So my question is, it says here parade week at overtime, expended 2020, $8,005, but we didn't have a parade. My question is, what was it spent on?
Yeah, I can answer that for you.
Well, so I'm going to ask, if you don't mind, can Lieutenant Hart just mute his microphone? Because what I've been hearing is a lot of echoing, and I just want to make sure that what you're telling me, I'm clear. I'm hearing it clearly. Please, and thank you.
Yep, I think we're all set. Can you hear me good?
Yeah.
Perfectly. Thank you so much.
Okay, so what I remember that is that if you remember in 2020, we were are we having a parade? Are we not having a parade? There was back and forth. And then there was a big push to people to still come down to the area, road, or they were going to create their own road race, that type of stuff. And we basically patrolled that to avoid any type of problems on that weekend. There were crowds, there were some people who basically decided to have their own road race. So we needed to support that because we just had no idea how that was going to turn out or how many people.
And then I see, right, so it was proposed for July 1st, no, June, is that, yeah, June 30th, 2021 through 55,000 was budgeted, but then I think what was requested for this year coming, or next, for 2022, 63,000, and Mayor Murphy, Acting Mayor Murphy, proposed it by 60,000. What I guess my question is, it jumped up 5,000 from the year before. Why is that? Are we expecting like a higher volume than normal?
Well, definitely we're expecting a higher volume, but we also had contractual raises. I believe there is also a contractual bonus that officers get to work. And to answer you, definitely we're anticipating a much higher volume this year, I would think. And we're not exactly sure with the new police reform bill how many auxiliary officers we're going to have. So we are really, I'll be honest with you, we're worried about the parade next year as far as coverage.
Well, that's why I wanted to, make note of this, because with the parade, if this actually goes through, my concern is that once we open the floodgates, everybody from every corner of the earth is going to fly here. So is this enough? It's just a question. I just want to make sure everybody's prepared.
I have no idea if it's enough, but I certainly hope it doesn't cut more.
We'll find out. Thank you.
You're welcome.
The nice problem about parade day, Chief Pratt, is you have to get through road race day to get to the parade. And the road race day has become the bigger event in terms of patrol, I think.
I agree 100% because that's almost like two events, the race itself and then the after party. So it's almost like three events now.
Councilor Sullivan, still hands up?
Haven't lost that bad habit of not taking it down.
Just checking. No problem. Any other questions for our police department? Page 22 and 23. Seeing none? Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the library, page 43. Our director, Maria Pagan, is with us.
Thank you, Joe.
Maria, do you have anybody else with you?
No, I'm by myself.
Well, we have the best of the best.
Thank you,
Maria,
Joe.
would you like to open up with any comments?
The only comment that I have is that I did the budget according to the new salary schedule. So there's like the assistant cataloger that was in the form that was eliminated. So instead of the assistant cataloger, we have the collection development. Another thing is the archivist has been omitted from the form for a couple of years. So I want to make sure that it is there. So the only thing that is different is the form. I didn't see in the new ordinance anything that would allow me to provide for a shift differential. So the people working nighttime would be paid exactly the same thing as when they're working daytime. So I put the whole amount that I'm going to need for the people that used to have the differential shift in just one category and not two. But everything is very straightforward. I'm asking mostly is for the employees. And because of the new salary schedule, that's why the numbers look a little bit different.
Maria, how
so
are
if you
the
have any
employees?
questions, I'm here to answer them.
How are your employees with the new salary
Excuse me?
schedule? How are your employees with the new salary schedule? Is it,
They're looking for that little bit that they're getting. They are
Yep.
just pleased that it finally went through, and they are going to be getting something this coming July.
okay, a step in the right direction?
Definitely.
Any questions
Chairman?
for our library director, Councilor Graney?
Yeah, just quickly, Maria, please, what line item do you have the shift differential in?
The reference library assistant, and that person also used to work the nighttime part. So we have the reference library assistant night. So now there's just going to be one pay rate. So I don't need to have the two listed separately. It could just be one line. And the other one is the library assistant and the library assistant night. That was used to be differential. Now it's only one pay rate, regardless whether they're in the daytime or nighttime. So I also kept that only in one line item.
Okay, I see it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further discussion on page
Yeah.
43?
Mr. Chairman.
Councilor Bacon first, please.
Thanks. So I'm looking at the way the salaries are listed, and then I'm looking at the line for salary adjustments of 117,000. And I'm looking at the total budget going from 671 to 761. And so is this budget indicating that those salary adjustments are not showing with each position? They're just in a lump under an adjustment?
Nope. When I did the first one that went to 800 is the 785,000, that was including the salary adjustment. But now because we have that increase, I don't need that part. So the numbers that you can see, that is what was proposed by the Mayor Murphy.
So
is already including the
so
whole
you
thing.
listed it in the lump and he put it into all the various positions, is what I'm understanding.
Correct.
And I would say that $117,000 of salary adjustments is a significant adjustment for the employees. Would you?
I definitely, like I said, it's going towards the right way that is supposed to. Everybody is feeling happy about the proposed that passed, so we're happy.
Good, thank you.
Mayor Murphy?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just so, and I thank Maria, and this has been a little challenging in terms of making sure I got it right. And for some reason, I know Maria has sent me something that actually reduces it a little bit lower than what I've got. So I'm going to be at some point trying to figure out how to get another budget to you that would allow for, I think, the archivist, is that what you called it, Maria?
The archivist?
Archivist. So, I mean, there's a couple there, money's just not getting transferred to positions that would now become active. It's not increasing the money, but eventually I got to put them into that line item. So, we're still working on that, but I wanted to make sure you're aware that it actually works out very well for the city, and it does create the funding in all the various positions that are now part of this budget. And with the changes that came about, and we had already started the budget process, and I kind of went beyond that before I got the second sheet, and then I ended up submitting the budget beforehand. So I think long term you'll be happy about it.
Oh, we're happy right now. We're happy with what's happening. We still have the same amount of employees, 20. I know that since November of 2019 all the way until March of 2021, I lost 5 people, and those are the ones that without them, they're the nighttime, the nighttime. Those positions will have to be filled. Otherwise, I will not be able to open back nighttime and Saturdays with those 5 people missing. So that's what we're working on. There's no increase from any previous year's request in regards to adding employees. It's exactly the same amount of employees, 20.
There is one thing missing, Maria.
Yes.
And this is something I look forward to every year, but I will no longer see it. And it's under classification or rate. It no longer says library schedule.
Woohoo! I know. I was so happy about that.
Yeah, we actually have grades.
Yes, we do.
Any further discussion for our director of the library, Councilor Bacon?
Thank you. I'm just interested to understand what the hours are for the library now, just to remind the public when it will be open.
We will reopen Monday the 14th, June 14th. The hours for the public to come into the building is going to be from 10 to 4. The staff will be there working from 8:30 to 5, but that's because we want to make sure everything is clean before the public comes in, and then at the end of the day also. So that's just to continue with the cleaning of the area just to make it safe and keeping the public and the staff safe. But the hours for the public will be 10 to 4. And the curbside service will continue also the same from 10 to 4.
And then is it your plan as you go forward and you backfill the other positions that you'll extend the hours from time to time?
If everything goes well and we don't have to step back and go back to phase 1 or 2, and we can now continue moving forward, come September, we'll go to our regular hours, which is 6 days a week, 63 hours a week. And that will be from 8:30 to 8:30 Monday to Thursday and until 4 on Fridays and Saturdays. That's God permitting that everything goes well and smooth and we don't have to step back. That will be starting in September.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Councilor Hernandez? Libby, you're muted.
Thank you. I just wanted to commend Maria for a marvelous job in this budget and fighting and in being persistent with the goals that she wanted to accomplish for the betterment of the public library, for improving morale. Thank you so much, Maria. The whole community, I mean, they just, you know, have so many great things to say about you. Thank you so much.
Thank you all for that.
Any further discussion? Chair seeing none. Maria, thank you very much. And we greatly appreciate your presence tonight and everything that you do.
Thank you.
Maria. Have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night.
We have one more item. Kate, I'm going to tell you, I did not make the agenda. I'm just taking care of the agenda. And I know last year, President McGee promised you you'd go first this year. I think he forgot.
I was going to actually say thank you. This is the earliest I think I've ever gone. So
this might be the earliest we've ever gotten a budget hearing open. But
yeah,
that's
usually
okay.
it's like 11 p.m. past my bedtime, but this is fine.
Welcome. We're on page 46, everybody. And Kate, if you'd like to walk us through, we'd appreciate it, and then we'll ask some questions.
Yeah, absolutely. And so just, I know a lot of our funding and budget doesn't appear here. So just for context, a couple of notes. We've done really well over the past year with grant funding, both in terms of capital needs, which are multiplying at the site, but we've been able to, you know, we feel like we have a good handle on them right now, and a few relief grants that really helped us get through the year. Where we're really down is obviously revenue. We didn't expect last year at this time to be closed for the whole year. Nobody did. So we're down about somewhere between 40 and 50,000 in terms of earned revenue. So really where that impacts this budget is the 2 part-time staff. And just as a refresher, or for those who haven't spoken with me before, Wisteria has a strange budget, and it's been longstanding where the allocation that appears here for the part-time staff only funds about half the year of their salary, and then we take it over and pay from earned income. And usually I come into this hearing and say, yes, we've earned enough. We've secured it for the year. That in fact came into play last year when we closed and had no revenues. We did have the revenues from the prior year in our account. We were able to keep people on staff, keep our programs running online, and it worked as it should, but now we're in a position where we don't have it. So the increase for the 2 part-time staff positions, I just want to clarify, is not an increase in salary or an increase in hours. It's the shortfall that comes from us not having the funds to fully cover the second half of the year as we normally do because of that revenue shortfall. I think everything else is pretty standard. We saw some increased costs around landscaping and cleaning this year, particularly around COVID and some volunteers retiring and various changes to our structure. So as always, a little bit more repair and maintenance is always really helpful as we chase our tail a little bit on upkeeping the site at this point.
Katie, definitely not just a unique budget, but a unique asset to the city of Holyoke, and it's wonderful, I think, to have Wisteria as part of what we have to offer. Very, very few communities have something of this this type of enterprise and nature of it. One of the good things about Wisteria, or maybe I'm just reading into this, but I would think one of the good things about Wisteria this time of year are the outdoor events. Is that something you anticipate you'll be able to do?
Yeah, we do. We so like a lot of other places our size, the rules have been changing so fast. We kind of have had different plans in place to ramp up, and then the time frame shifts a little bit. So right now we're the grounds are always open. You know, we say dawn till dusk. We've seen a really big increase in visitors this year. I think because the wisteria bloom was beautiful, and also people are just looking for places to go outside. So we are encouraging everybody grab a picnic, a book, whatever you want to do, use our grounds. We're offering tours by appointment already. So anybody, one person up to 6 or 7 people can call and we'll schedule an appointment to have a full house tour with our curator. We're starting to work with our community groups, our longstanding partners, to start booking some of their activities and some of those community events again, which includes some outdoor activities. We're planning on really launching our first big exhibit and indoor experience around the first week of July, just because it's an exhibit that we're staging and it's taking a little bit of time to clean the house and set that up. So we're really on track to get back to a rigorous schedule. I think the loss of the program coordinator last year will have an impact in the volume of programs that we're offering that we've created ourselves. So versus hosting partner programs and having outside facilitators do some programming on site. Certainly in 2020, our plan had been actually to focus on the outdoor environment, natural history, and some education. If anyone joined us for our online programs, you might have seen that theme. That was our plan. And so we're talking this year about, especially with ongoing health concerns, really making best use of that outdoor space and maybe trying again to have that as a thematic focus.
And I hope that acting mayor, our good Mayor Murphy, understands that. I forget the timing, but the Volleyball Hall of Fame has always hosted a little event at Wisteriahurst to get a lot of people, international people, into the building itself. And I'm not sure if that's coming up, Kate, or something we can do this year.
I haven't talked to them yet this year. I talked to them a little bit last year, so I'm sure if they want to, we're there for them. Same with other community. As I said, I think with the loss of the program coordinator, the opportunity comes up for more hosted programs from other folks, and we're always really excited to have the variety of people that come in through those kind of events and programs.
I think William Skinner would have been proud to know at one point I was in the music room and counted 17 different countries where people, not just inductees, but people were from, and it was incredible to see right on Beach Street.
Yeah, it's really special.
Any other
Just so you
questions?
know, Mr. Chairman, I have met with the Volleyball Hall of Fame to promote them and get them open more, and I will encourage them to go to Asteriahurst for induction.
I will share a little story real quick. I'll make
Counselor
it.
Anderson,
Everybody wants to go home, or we're already home, but you know what I mean. End the meeting. So I grew up in Jackson Parkway. It's not there anymore, obviously. And my safe zone, growing up in Jackson Parkway, was the grounds of the Asteriahurst Museum, and I would bring my Star Wars toys and just play by myself in the exotic bushes that you guys have there. There was Japanese trees, I believe, and bushes and stuff like that, and even the architectural, some of the stuff in the back in the yard were of Asian, right? Inspired.
Yep. Absolutely.
I don't know if it's there anymore, but I used to love those grounds. It was my safe zone when I was a kid.
Well, and I just want to publicly acknowledge the garden volunteers who long predate me. I believe maybe predates paid staff at Asteriahurst, who are the ones that really keep that going. And last year when we had to close officially, a lot of those beds and grounds were weeded. Even though we did get supplemental landscaping, a lot of them were kept as beautiful as they were, because I understand that there was still people coming by despite not having facilities, despite not always having access to tools and things like that, and making sure that they were beautiful. So I really want to shout them out and let them know that it didn't go unnoticed, and it was so appreciated, even if sometimes we're, we're not crossing paths all the time as we used to.
What might be the final question is, will the frog circus be on display this year?
It absolutely will. And if anyone, we've been secretly searching for donations to make a casing for the Frog Bank, which is the little known frog town display that exists in our archives. So yeah, we love the frogs. Too much fun not to.
Any other questions for Kate? Page 46. Seeing none, Kate, thank you very much, and wish you a much better year for what we just went through the last 12, 15 months.
I hope so, yeah.
Thanks, Kate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, there's only one other motion to make.
Motion adjourned.
Motion made and second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We stand.
Good night.
Someone call Counselor McGee and let him know.
The record.
Good night, everybody.
Night.
Good night.
Good night.